the Kenya Science of Mind Center. So I have a PowerPoint and really it's just my backup to keep me on task because I have a tendency to not go on task. So for those of you that don't know, Kenya is right here. It's right on the equator, and it is in the northeast of Africa. Kenya, just to give you a little background, I found this was, I love statistics, so I found this was fascinating. Land-wise, Kenya is smaller than Alberta. The size of Alberta, the country of Kenya, is land mass is smaller than Alberta. We have just over 3 million people in Alberta. There are 45 million in Kenya. 45 million people in Kenya, in an area smaller than Alberta. So, if you at all have any vision of that, that means there's a lot of people. And one of the things they don't know is about personal space. One of the first things I realized when I was there is, you know, we have our personal space. Well, they don't because there just isn't. And a lot of the land mass is not habitable. So the land that is habitable has a lot of people on it. So that's a little statistic about Kenya. So the Kenya Science of Mind Center, as I explained a little bit in this service, as I first went there, I was called to go there in 2010. I went, and I'm calling what I did, I was there 7 months. It was a feasibility study, that's what I call it, a viability study, to see if it was a viable idea, because I had no idea that if it would even be viable to go. Now I have started 2 centers in Canada, so I know how to do that here. But I gotta tell you, doing that in Africa is a whole other thing. Because as I was saying in my talk, they're so immersed in the lack and limitation and consciousness of poverty that you can't go there and charge for classes. Like, we support ourselves, we charge for classes, we take a collection. Well, there's no way that they could support me to live there. And so I had enough money. I had a grant, a bit of a grant in my own money when I first went there. And so I ran out of money in about 7 months. And so I came home. And so my idea now is to go back and forth. So I'm there for 6 months, and I'm here for 6 months. And so while I'm here, I do garnering support for the work. Because, as Nadine said this morning, the vision of Centers for Spiritual Living is to touch and transform 100 million lives. I believe in order to do that, we need to take this where the people are. With Centers for Spiritual Living, yes.
So who keeps it going while you're gone?
I do. I do. I'm it.
From here?
From here. Yes. I keep it going by teaching classes. I teach classes, I was saying, on the video phone on Sunday mornings. I continue to teach classes. I'm in constant contact via email with them, and just keep perpetuating it that way as long as I'm here. My goal is to have a team of people. And so this time when I go over, last time when I went over, I got an apartment, I furnished an apartment, but I didn't like the apartment. So I gave it up, I put my stuff in storage. This time when I'm going back, I've got the apartment already on hold that I want to live in. It's a very nice place, very secure, 2-bedroom apartment. It cost me about $400 a month, utilities, everything, for the apartment. And so my idea is I'm going to leave everything there in the apartment, keep the apartment even when I'm here. And so that when I go back, the apartment is there, everything is there. It's not moving stuff back and forwards, putting it in storage. And also, it will be a place for people that want to go over and teach when I'm not there. They'll have a place to go, so they can be there. So it's going to have kind of a dual purpose. So the vision of the Kenya Science of Mind Center is one spirit, one world, one people. Because I truly believe it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, we're all one. My mission is to celebrate our diversity and consciously create an empowered community. It's not about, like Nadine said, giving people things. Because one of the things that we do here is we are a teaching philosophy. So we teach people, we empower people, teach people how to be empowered in their own lives, to create their own desires. So that's been a challenge for me when I've been there. I use that word challenge again, because of their mindset. They were colonized by the British, which means all of the missionaries were there, and the missionaries were there for one thing only, and that was to convert the natives. And so they were throwing money at them, building them schools, building them hospitals, doing this, doing that, all of these things, all this money, feeding them, clothing them. And so what they have done is they have created a society of people with their hand out. And so if you are there and you're white and you're a minister, they have their hand out. They expect you to do their projects. They have a sense of expectation of that. So my job has been to teach them that that's not why I'm there. I am there to teach you to fish. I'm not there to give you the fish. That's my ongoing motto when I'm over there. I'm not there to give you things. I'm not there to give you things. I am here. You want to learn? I will teach you how to manifest the money that you say you need, but I will not give you the money. I will not give you the things. I am here to teach you how to manifest them in your own life. And so that is a huge, huge mind shift for them. Here in Canada, that we can pick this teaching up anywhere. We can turn on the TV, we can pick up a book, we can pick up a newspaper. This teaching has become so mainstream that people hear it everywhere. It wasn't that way 20 years ago when we first got into this teaching, but it is very much that way now. And so we have some idea of manifestation in this culture. It is such a new idea there. They don't have it's not part of their consciousness at all. And so I'm constantly teaching them. That said, I need to survive there. And so your support of this center, one of the things it will do is allow me to be there to teach them without expecting payment from them to have me there. And to keep the apartment and to buy the books and the supplies and all of the stuff that is required when we're there. The purpose of the Science of Mind, Kenya Science of Mind Center, is to provide quality instruction of science of mind and to recognize that inherent wholeness and power of the individuals. Because sometimes it's easy when you're immersed and surrounded in limitation to forget that they too are powerful. So it's to remind them that they too are powerful, to use the tools and to know that they can. We're based on the 3 C's: community, connection, and celebration. We bring them together in community because their whole life in that tribal society, and I talked a little bit about that in my talk this morning. One of the things that I think we've lost a lot in our society here is that connection to family and community. Because we're so spread out and we're so diverse that we create our own communities, such as this one at a center, or different groups that we belong to. But I think we've lost a lot of that deep sense of community, which is inherent in their culture, in their tribal culture. They are so, I was so amazed of the 45 million people in Kenya, over 50% of them are children. And a large majority, I don't know the statistics off the top of my head, no, it's more than 50%, 70% of them are children. And a large proportion of the children are orphans. They're warriors. They're disease, a lot of disease, AIDS is rampant. It's just a very high mortality rate in that country. So a lot of the children. And so the community raises these children. We're very socialist here in Alberta. You know, if people are starving, it's choice. You know, people don't have to starve in Canada. But there are no social programs. They don't have anything like that. So the community raises these children. It's quite incredible. I was very impressed. Oh, wrong way. So, how do we touch 100 million lives? I believe we do that just by being out where people live, being out in the community, being where they are. Centers for Spiritual Living is where we live. So I love what Nadine's doing here. Now we're in a community where people are. So I think that's a beautiful move. One of the things you'll see, this is a picture of a school in a slum. This fellow and his wife run a school in one of the slums in Nairobi, not Kibera, which is the big one, but it's another slum. And don't get better. Anybody that hear that word slum and you kind of cringe, that's what they call them. It's just another word. It doesn't have the same connotation that we have here. But they have a school in this slum, and it's an orphanage school, which means that a lot of the children that come there that are orphans, and they have 250 students in an area smaller than this room, where they're teaching these children. They have, the youngest is about 1.5 years to grade 8. And they have what they call a baby class, because many of the children can't go to school because they have to stay at home to look after the younger children while the parents go out. Often they just have one parent, and the parent has to go out, and they call it looking for food. They go out during the day and try to do a job or something to get food to bring home, because normally they just have one meal a day because they're that poverty-stricken. And so this school operates from about 6:30 in the morning, because that's when the parents would have to leave. This particular slum is in the middle of an industrial area, so it takes a while. You have to walk in and walk out, you know, to get out. And so these children couldn't go to school at a public school because there's none close enough for them to get to. So their schools are in the slum. And so there's 250 students. I'm teaching a class of 45 of them, and I teach them science of mind. I was invited into their school to teach science of mind. It is absolutely incredible. Just the most amazing experience you can imagine. So this is a group of my kids that I'm teaching. As you can see, it's just dirt. These desks are made out of wood, just pieces of wood nailed together, about 4 students per desk. The buildings are corrugated tin. They have 2 buildings. One building, this building has 2 rooms in it, divided with no light, no electricity, divided by cardboard, old cardboard boxes dividing the 2 rooms. And then they have another building back this way that has 3 rooms in it that they divide up. So if you can imagine, those 250 children are packed in there like sardines. And when it rains, that is a slough. And the garbage is just beyond incredible. Beyond incredible. I've also taken the Science of Mind. This is an adult group. These people, mostly women, didn't speak any English, but they wanted me to come. It was out at this remote village, and I went to this group. These women are learning sewing in order to support their children. They're learning how to sew, and at the same time, Jeffrey, the guy that runs the school in Nairobi, was running this school as well at a remote village with these adult women, teaching them their ABCs and how to count, as well as they were learning how to sew. So I went to visit them, and they were so excited that I had come to their community, even though they couldn't understand a thing I had to say. We were conversing through Jeffrey, because he speaks their language, as well as Swahili and English. But their willingness to learn new ways to facilitate the change that they're looking for is nothing short of miraculous. This is a picture of my adult class. This is my husband over there. He's not going with me this time. My husband is staying behind. He's decided he wants a Canadian experience of winter. Isn't that hilarious? I just giggle. I think, alrighty then. Okay, so I'm going back to Nairobi by myself. Actually, I have a volunteer from Vancouver that has decided, I've met this woman who was introduced to me, and she has decided that she's going to come, since Patrick won't be there, for the entire 6 months. She's coming a week after I arrive, and she's going to stay there. She's a retired nurse that has been studying the science of mind for many years and is going to come volunteer. So in my apartment, I have a second bedroom. Anybody that wants to come and volunteer with me, you have a place to stay. So she's coming. The objective of the Science of Mind Center is to establish, initially, we will be a teaching chapter, but eventually a full-blown center in Kenya. That's my goal. The first phase will be the teaching chapter. So I went over there the first time in 2010. I was there for 7 months. I came back. I was here for 18 months working on immigration, because the first time I was over there I met and married my husband. And so it took 18 months immigration, working, getting money, getting funds, raising awareness to go back. The second time I went back was in 2012 to 2013. I was there for 6 months. So the plan now is to do 6 months, to go back and forth between the two countries. And so right now I have 8 committed students that all speak very, very good English, which I've determined is crucial. So many people would like to take the classes, but it's just too difficult to try, because I don't speak their language, and everything is in English. All of the work is in English. So eventually, my goal is to have it translated into Swahili, but for now, it is what it is. So my goal is to teach these people so that they will go out and teach their communities. And the people that I've been attracting now fit so beautifully into that idea. Every one of them has declared that they want to become at least a practitioner, most of them a minister, and they want to teach this. So that's my goal, is to teach people that want to teach. They're really keen to get a center started right away. This fellow here is quite amazing. His name is Ben. Ben is a fundamental Christian minister. And he showed up to my first discovery class. I didn't think he would come back. The first class he came to, we were talking about all of the big ideas that we talk about, like what we believe in God and heaven and hell. Well, he's fundamental Christian, and he walks in and he said to me, he said, "Are you telling me that they lied to me?" Well, I wouldn't exactly say that, but what I did say is I said, no, I don't think they were lying. They were only telling you what they believe. But I believe there's another truth. And I said, all I'm sharing with you is my truth. Last week, because I teach these same people every Sunday morning, a 2.5-hour science of mind class, last week, Ben had missed a couple of weeks because he travels with his job. He was back in class again, and we were doing our sharing, and Ben said to me, he said, I want to tell you an experience I had. So I was teaching what he would normally be teaching in a Christian way, and all of a sudden he realized he couldn't say that anymore because he didn't believe it. It's beginning to embody the teaching. He said, so he had to sit down and take what he was teaching and figure out ways to say it in science of mind. Isn't that amazing? I was just like, oh my goodness, that was so incredible that he's realized that, and how quickly it's beginning to spread out into their communities. So he already, as a first-year student, is beginning to teach science of mind in the way he does his ministry. So it's quite incredible.
And we're not necessarily making what he taught wrong, we're just using
Exactly.
different words for,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Like I said, it's not wrong, it's just the way it is. So this little boy was one of my students praying in the sun one day when he saw me. It was so cute. But this project we're doing, at the school that I'm teaching at last year, I chose a theme to teach the students, and the theme was light. And we talk about light. Light is quality of God that is intelligence. And so I was teaching this to the students the whole 6 months when I was there, different aspects of light and how that meant, and working through it. So then we found this project was to make light. And so at the end, when I was there, we did this project with them. And it's fabulous. So you take a 2-liter clear pop bottle, 2-liter plastic bottle, you fill it, you take the labels off, thank you, Sharon. You fill it up with water, put a cap full of bleach in it, seal it. Now, there's corrugated tin on the roof, so we've got a piece of corrugated tin, cut a circle in it to put the light up through it, put some sealant around it, put a hole in the roof, and drop the light in. And the light, the sun, it's solar lighting, refracts through the bottle, through the water, and it's like a 60-watt bulb goes off in their classroom. And so taught them about the power of light.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Now these kids want to teach their, I said, I'm going to go back this time and walk into the slum, and there's going to be a sea of bottles sticking up over the roofs. I can just imagine it now. So that's one of the projects that I did with them. So what I'm finding is finding ways to, because our stories that we have, we teach in stories and life experience, have no relevance to the Africans at all. So I've got to find stories that can be relevant to them. So this just was so perfect. And there was light. This is such an amazing story of manifestation. This young fellow, his name is Martin. The first time I was there in 2010, he was one of my students at the time. And out of all of the kids, he just captured my heart. Every time I'd ask a question, he'd be sitting in his teacher, teacher, teacher. He'd be just jumping out of his seat. He was just always so keen and just such a bright, bright student. Well, one of the centers that supports the work is in Las Vegas, where I'm doing a fundraiser next weekend in Las Vegas. And I was sharing this story when I was down there before I went back the last time. And I just found myself sharing the story about Martin. Before I came back, we were doing I was doing a visualization with them and talking about our dreams and what our desires and what we hope to be. And it was absolutely amazing to me because, you know, you ask little kids, what do you want to be? They want to be doctors and firemen and policemen and pilots and all of these things. Well, these kids in the slum, some of them have never left the slum. They want to be doctors and nurses and pilots. I was like, really? They don't know that they're in poverty. That's just their life. They don't know that the chances of that becoming a reality for them is slim to none. They have no concept of that at all. And there's some of the joyous, happiest, most loving young children. So anyway, I was sharing the story about Martin. When I asked Martin, he said he wanted to be a doctor because he's watched so many of his friends die in the slum because they couldn't afford medical care. So he wants to be a doctor so he can help them in the slum. Oh, so anyway, I went back to Africa last time and I got an email from the Las Vegas Center. Somebody had come forward from their community that said, when you go back, if you can find Martin, we want to pay for his schooling. So I went back and I found Martin. He was not going to the same school because he'd gone to the next grade. In Kenya, they're on the British education system, and so they have a lot of boarding schools. So in high school, most students, some of them have day boarding schools, but a large percentage go to boarding school. So, and they write like our departmental exams when you're done grade 9, you write an exam. Well, they have something like that. It's in grade 8, they write their exam. And so what happens, they get the marks, they're all graded by the government, and then the various schools look at the grades and they pick the students, and then they invite that student to come to their school. That's how they decide what school they want to go to. Well, this young man, raised in the slum with that, now in this school, they don't have books, they don't have chalkboards, they have nothing. It's a verbal teaching. They have nothing. He is genius. The mark he got in his exams was nothing less than, he got like 368 out of 400, which is like really incredible, was his mark on the exam. So he had several schools invited him to come to their school. Well, depending on where the school and what they are, their school fees can be pretty astronomical. He had just finished his exam when I went back last time. Was waiting on his results. I got the news that somebody was willing to sponsor him. His first day of school, so you saw where he was in the slum at school, this is where he's going to school. And this is where he's living now for the next 4 years. And this Kenya Science and Mind Center is paying for him. And remember what I said before about, teaching them to fish and not giving them things? It was a transformation for me to get to the point that it would be okay to pay for this boy's schooling. Because for him, that was his manifestation. That was his manifestation. And what that has done for the possibility and potential for the other kids in that school, what it has done for their self-esteem and their self-worth and their sense of possibility, that Martin and somebody that goes to school with them was able to do this, has absolutely transformed the school. What a story of manifestation.
And there's also teaching them how to fish because he's learning, and then he can be the doctor. We're not making him a doctor. He's got to do the work to become the doctor.
Right. And I absolutely know that someday we're going to look back and go, I knew Martin when. I know that this boy is going to do something incredible. So we bought his supplies. They all have these little trunks. He had a pail. They have to take a pail to do their own laundry and stuff. Quite an experience getting Martin ready for school, I gotta tell you, because it all happened within a week of when the school was starting and the funds came and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, Martin is now going to school. It's pretty exciting. This fellow came and volunteered with me. The first time I was there, he stayed with me for 2 months. Fellow from the States that had been studying science of mind, heard about what I was doing. One of the things that I've determined that is so crucial over there is books, because they can't get the science of mind books in Africa. So they need science of mind books. And so I collect books, and one of the things I've done over there is I took one of the things I did not sell was most of my personal library. I boxed it up and shipped it over. And so I'm building a library there of science of mind books. And so I have a library system where they can sign books out, borrow books. I have textbooks So when I teach a class, I lend them the books for class. They don't own them. I lend them to them so that we can get as much use out of the books as we possibly can. So Nadine had mentioned that that's one of the things that they can help me here is to buy books to take over. So this time when I go, I'm going to take all of the stuff that I'm taking over in suitcases to go through with me, because last year I shipped some stuff over by ship and it was a nightmare getting it cleared to customs. It ended up costing over $2,000 to clear the stuff once it got there. It was just atrocious. Such corruption. So anyway, this time I'm going to take it with me when I go through the airport, and knowing that that's going to be a better experience this time when I go. So Bob helped me set up catalog all of the books and get the library set up. So it's going well. One of the things I did before I left last time, I invited the group of adults over to my home. We had dinner together, and I invited them to go through the library and borrow. They each borrowed 15 books to take, so that they would be having things to read while I was gone. And so they're getting a lot out of the books that they're reading as well, and then they're passing them among themselves. So that's very, very valuable. I've got boxes of Creative Thought. I'm so glad, because now they're cutting out the Creative Thought magazine. I'm so glad I've got boxes of them over there because they're so valuable. The Creative Thought Science of Mind magazines over there for the library. Another thing that Centers for Spiritual Living has partnered with Outreach Africa. Outreach Africa is a couple of practitioners that had gone to Tanzania and came back and were inspired to develop this food program where they do the teens. This is the teens participated in this, boxing up. But were you part of that, Christina? No, that was after your time as a teen. Anyway, they did a bunch, and the teens then asked Outreach Africa to specifically, because I was in charge of the teen group up here for many years, so asked that food come to me specifically. So we distributed a bunch of the food from the teens in Africa as well. And again, that was huge for me too, because I didn't want to be the face with the food. I didn't want them, because I was still teaching them not to come for handouts. Here I am giving them handouts. And so I actually wasn't the one that was doing it. I had somebody else do that for me, so that they didn't associate it as coming from me. But there's, my husband actually was delivering a lot of it. And he's black and he's in their culture, so it wasn't like it was coming from a white person outside of the country. So it was coming from one of them. So we distributed to a bunch of different schools. This is different kids.
What's his background?
He was trained as an architect, and then for many, many years he had a public service vehicle, like a bus, public bus. Yeah.
So he's not coming from the ministry or anything?
Oh, no. No, no. He's studying with me now, but no, he's not a minister. This was another project we did last year. We're doing the same project this year. One of the centers in Edmonton that I go to did, the women did a project where they made what they're calling pillowcase dresses. They're not actually, they didn't make them out of pillowcases. She's a quilter. So her, they called the sewing being, made a bunch of dresses, and I had dresses and shorts for all of the students in the entire school last year. Many of them have never had anything new in their lives. And we clothed every one of them, and we had t-shirts that the teen group here had done t-shirts and painted them, and so I had, for the older students, I had t-shirts for them. This was another incredible story of manifestation. When they gave me the clothing to take over last year, they told me how many pieces of clothing. I think they said there was 160 dresses and shorts. Well, there's 250 kids in the school. It took 3.5 months for the shipment to get there. When the shipment finally got there, I was almost ready to come home again. Anyway, get the shipment. I'm going through the dresses and shorts and sorting them by size, to distribute, wondering what I'm going to do because there's not enough for everybody. There was exactly enough for every student. Now, I didn't ask the universe how that happened, but it was the loaves and fishes.
Yeah.
It was the loaves and fishes. There was exactly enough for every student. They still can't believe it because that's not how many they said. Anyway, that's what the cutest little things. So they did it again this year. They made a whole bunch more, and I'll be taking them over again this year, shipping them over. This little girl that I'm holding over here, she is the baby of the people that run the school, and they had her when I was here for that 18 months, and they named her after me. So that's going to be Connie. Thanks, Lou.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's back to the school again. So my goals. The first year, well, we've already done that because now I'm starting with last year as my first year of actually teaching. The first time was a viability study. Taught foundations in Nairobi. I was going out to Kisii, which is 400 kilometers away, to teach a class once a month, and teaching month classes in the slum school. So I reached all of the goals that I was able, and more. We had an incredible 6 months. The support that I got, particularly from the Las Vegas Center, what we achieved in the last 6 months was truly remarkable. So my 5-year goal is to have 10 practitioner trained in Nairobi at the end of 5 years, to have a center established with Sunday services at the end of 5 years, and in the slum school, we're going to be also starting a parent program to be teaching the parents science of mind as well as the children. So that's something I'm going to be working on this time when I go over is the parent program. My 10-year goal is to have 5 ministers trained in Nairobi, and with some of those ministers going out to actually teach in Kisii. Some of the support, my husband and I, he took me on Mother's Day to this conservatory. These are baby lions.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah, amazing. So we have many centers that are, not many, we have a few centers that are committed to supporting us already. Nadine is, like she said, doing a presentation to the board tomorrow night about partnering with this center. We have from various levels of commitment. My goal is it costs me about $1,000 a month to teach and have a place in Africa. So my goal is if I had 6 centers donating $200 a month, that would support me to be there full time, to teach and be there without ever worrying about how I was going to support myself. That seems like a very reasonable goal. So that's my goal, is to be able to do that. We are in the process right now of setting up a not-for-profit society so that it will be charitable at this point, but it will allow either this center or the center in Kamloops that I had founded is also looking at the possibility of having donations flow through their center so that it would be tax deductible receipts given that way. So this is just a list of some of the centers that have supported the work over the years and other individuals that have supported the work in other ways. So that's it for my presentation. So I'm open to questions. Does anybody have any questions? Anything you want to know? And I'm going to sit. These are, as Oprah said, these are my sitting shoes.
So in terms of volunteering, are you just taking people that are studying science of the mind, or are they just all levels of volunteers?
All levels of volunteers. Anybody, if you're interested and you want to come, whether it's for 2 weeks or 2 months or 6 months, I don't care. I will make a program. I'm starting a program it's voluntourism is becoming very big in the world, where people want to go on tours, but they don't want to just go stay in the fancy hotels. They want to be part of something. So we are developing a program right now where people can come over, volunteer with me, and we'll also take you on safari. My husband also at one point used to work for a safari company over there, so he's very well versed in tourism as well. He's also got friends, like this woman that's coming over right now. My husband found a friend of his that does safaris that said he would take her and I out. Her cost would be $150 a day, all in. That includes like going to the Masai Mara, where the Big Five are. So that would include a tented camp, your accommodations, your meals, your transportation, your park fees, everything all in for $150 a day. That's incredible. And he'd take me for $50 a day because I'm Patrick's wife and I'm Kenyan. In their mind, I'm Kenyan. So, yeah.
And you're nice.
Hmm?
And you're nice.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so, and he also knows that I'll be bringing more people over as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so part of it would be to come and volunteer with me, which would, I think is incredible. If you go on my website, it'll give you more information, but it will give people a real taste of what Africa really is. And, you know, to be there, to go to a slum school, to go out to Kisii and work with the people, to go to the soapstone factory and see where they're doing this, to go and be with the people in a different way. So
What's
that's
your website again?
It's I've got a card back there.
Oh,
It's,
okay.
yeah, it's cslkenya.org
Okay.
is my website. So yes, anybody is welcome to come.
Yeah, okay, good, thanks. Yeah.
Even you, Christina.
What's your airfare?
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks.
Right now, the airfare is incredibly cheap. Because of the Ebola crisis in Africa,
Oh, sure.
tourism's way down. But it doesn't have any, it's in West Africa. I'm in Northeast Africa. It's on the other side. It's like going from here to Newfoundland, for heaven's
Yeah.
sake. It's not close. But people think Africa's Africa and people are afraid.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
right now, I got my return flight for $1,250.
No way.
Oh my God.
How many stops is it?
One.
Where are you?
I'm flying Amsterdam. My favorite way, and trust me, by now I've traveled on several airlines. My favorite is KLM. You can fly Calgary, Amsterdam, and Amsterdam Airport is a delight. Calgary, Amsterdam, Nairobi.
Yeah.
It's 17 hours in the air. 24 hours to travel.
Pretty long day.
Yeah, 24 hours. But you leave here in the late afternoon, so you can sleep on the plane,
That's right, yeah.
going over and,
Get Amsterdam and have breakfast and
yeah,
carry on.
yeah,
You have a long way over?
5 hours.
That's small.
Yeah, but it's a delightful airport.
Oh, yeah.
They have a meditation room with these beautiful benches where you can go and have a nap. It's just, it's quite
Yeah.
beautiful. You've been there?
Yeah,
Yes,
several
lovely.
times.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Any more questions? The most I paid for a flight is $2,000,
Yeah.
but this is the cheapest, $1,250. Now, if you want to come, it's a good time to come, if the flights are so low. And, you know, tourism, yeah.
In your teaching, you said there was a Muslim, is one of your,
11% of Muslim, yeah.
is one of the people you're teaching from Muslim background?
Yes, not the adults, none of the, all of the adults are fundamental Christians, but in the students, yes, there's probably, out of the 45, I'll bet you there's 10 Muslim kids.
Well, I bet that's interesting, teaching the adults, because really they have to have been asking questions in the back of their mind all their lives.
You would think,
One would think so.
you would think.
Yeah.
But they're in such a place of survival, perhaps not. They're so busy just surviving.
Yes.
Every
yeah.
day.
Yeah, yeah,
And the thing is, I think you have a better appreciation of it than the rest of the world, because these people don't know any different.
No, they don't.
They get born there and they die there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And we can't even,
can't even fathom it.
no,
Can't
no.
even fathom it.
The poverty, had you ever seen anything like that
Never.
before? No, so it'll be
Never.
a big shocker for you.
Oh, God, the first few times I went into the slum,
It'd be hard for you to
was
understand,
hard.
to see it on TV.
and then it would rain, and I'd call them, and say, because they all have cell phones, right? And say, I'm not coming today, because it's raining, but you have, no, seriously, I am not coming to the slum in the rain. It's hard enough to come to the slum when it's not a slough. No, I can't, I couldn't do it. I could not, I couldn't make myself do it.
Which is fine.
I couldn't, it was just, no.
Too creepy.
I did take over rubber boots last
Yeah.
time I went,
Yeah.
but on the off chance that I might decide to do that, but no, I didn't. Didn't use the rubber boots, but they're there.
So is that the only school in that slum?
Oh, no, there's many. Yeah.
And it's not an orphanage though?
It's called an orphanage camp, because how he runs it is quite different than how most schools would run. How he runs the school is because his goal is creating community in the slum. And so, say there's 4 or 5 kids in a family, they would pay for one child and the rest would go free. Because most of them have large families. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, that was great, thanks.
And so, and most of them, even in the slum, if a lot of the kids are orphans, because many of the kids just have one parent anyway. And so if that parent dies, then who's going to take the kid? So other people just raise the kid. And so many of the kids that come there are orphans. They go someplace else to sleep, but that's where they are. They're at the school. They're there from early morning. So I want to put in a food program as well, so that we're feeding them breakfast when they get there.
Thank you so much.
thank you so much.
Thank you for coming. I'm glad you stayed. Thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you too, Connie. Yeah,
Thank you. Have a good day.
thanks.